Welcome to the Ghost Show online, my fiends, booze, and ghouls. Your hosts, Seika Groves, Rachel Benter, and Ian Russell will discuss all things paranormal. Prepare to be afraid.
This is just something that happened. You can decide whether it's paranormal or not, but since we're having this conversation, I thought I'd throw it out there. My husband's grandma Rose she's buried in Hewelton, right there here in northern New York. And I guess that she doesn't have an upright headstone.
Okay.
Her headstone is flat. With Grandma Rose and her headstone, it was winter and my girls were 3. I don't think they'd ever been before to the cemetery, but we wanted to go and put some flowers down and pay our respects. And it was snowing, and my husband Harvey pulls up at the cemetery, and I've got the girls with me, and Ava and Elizabeth, both my girls. I put them down. Ava, by herself with her flowers, goes to Grandma Rose's grave. We couldn't find it at first because there was snow on the ground, and we didn't know. We knew the general area of where that gravestone was because we've been there before, but we didn't know where exactly. Right. And Ava was 3 and she didn't know. She'd never been there before, but she went straight to it like she knew where it was, and she was like, "There's Grandma Rose. Grandma Rose is here." And I thought, wow, isn't that wild? I mean, she was 3. Yeah. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, in this entire sort of area, she picked that exact spot, and there was snow across. She couldn't read. She was too young to know. So yeah, it was kind of wild.
I definitely say, it's like there's connections, and kids are very open.
I think so.
I know when I was a child, nobody ever said to me, "Oh no, you can't hear that or see that or believe that," right? So I was never told my imaginary friends were not real, right?
Yeah, I don't say that to the girls either. It's happened before with them. They've had imaginary friends, but I had heard the gift sort of passes on through the female line with us, but we'll see.
Often enough, all my boys have that too. So
there seems to be something.
I think it just depends, but I completely believe that. And is it paranormal? Well, yes, it's definitely paranormal because it's not normal. Like it's not
right. Exactly. How did she know where to go? It's really strange.
Age 3, I think it's pretty fascinating. It's something that there's a connection, right? We have a connection, and I think we're learning now too, like not to get too off topic here, but I think we're learning now too that, through our DNA is encoded with our ancestors' stories, whether they're traumatic or heroic or they're just everyday stories. And I really believe now, like the idea of past life regression, it's not our past lives we're experiencing, it's our ancestors' past lives that we're getting glimpses of through our DNA connection, right? So I really believe that because I've had a story that was just way too vivid and too common. But we'll talk about that again on another show because we did that show many, many years ago. And it was really interesting, right? Like I think it was So I think we can talk about that in a future show because the science now is allowing us to, and all the DNA research, but the science is now showing that these imprints are encoded in our DNA strands. So I think it's a really cool show to talk about. But yeah, for sure, I think in the terms of Ava, and because you're a medium, I'm sure the girls must have some.
Oh yes, I think so.
Ability to connect. Yeah,
I think so. She said that she had a bad dream once, and something was bothering her in a dream, And I said, well, you just imagine, protect yourself, just imagine that, there's a bubble between you and them and they can't get you and nothing can hurt you. Right. And she said, oh, Mom, I just put it in the dream catcher. That's all. It's like the dream catcher. Okay. We're going to be moving that dream catcher. But yeah, no, it's funny how dream catchers, for her, the dream catcher kept her safe. It, made her feel safe.
Too. I mean, that's the Anishinaabe people believe that the dream catcher is there to take those nightmares, those bad dreams.
Yes.
And, to keep them in.
And there is sort of a Native American history on my husband's side.
Right.
He's got family, yeah. So,
and I mean, the thing is too, right? It's also the region that you live in. I mean, it's again too. But my youngest son always had one. He bought one at powwow, and I mean, not his father, because his father's Chinese, but my husband now, he's Indigenous background, and this was before even then, and he had gone out and bought this when he was at powwow, because the school used to go to powwow. I don't know if you remember, Ian, the big powwow they used to have at Skydome.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So my son went to powwow and he brought it home and he hung it by his bed, because I guess the person that he bought it from, the lady, she had made it and she told him the whole story about it. And he was about 7 at the time, so he had it hanging on his bed. But yeah, I think that there's so much knowledge out there, right? And it's just we tend to, I don't know, like, it's not, I know I don't, but there's so many people that tend to live inside this little box that it's so cut and dry, and that we don't have any, like, paranormal experiences aren't real, or these things, and because you can't, scientifically can't prove it. But there's a lot of things we scientifically can't prove at this point, right? So yeah. I think that our mind and our connection to nature, we forget that we are so connected to the universe and to nature. Even if you're living in the concrete jungle, you're still a part of the environment. So I think it's just a matter of opening up and being receptive. But if you're not receptive, you're never going to experience that, right? Like, you're never going to experience it. So, and again, I think everybody's capable of it. It's just, certainly kids are. I mean, I
got, as a medium, when I worked for the paranormal teams, they constantly sort of wanted you to prove things, prove it. There's only so much you can prove.
Yeah. Stories, right? Like the stories, that I've been given. Again, I was saying this, actually, I was talking to a producer yesterday from a TV show, paranormal TV show, and they were, talking to me about these things. And I said, well, here's the thing for me, it's never a conversation, really. It's a listening experience. Because when I'm getting information, I'm hearing it from the spirit, but it's not like I can turn around and go, so, hey, what did you think about the weather on this? It doesn't work that way. So I think that even, that connection, like with your girls to their, would be their great grandmother, right?
Yes, Grandma Rose.
Through that psychic ability, but also, part of just what Ava felt. She picked up on that energy and she was like, yes, this is the spot. So I think that's really cool. Like, I think
that is cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, both of you, Rachel and Seika, with Ava picking out the gravesite.
Yes.
I've done a few investigations of a grave in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Trudy and I wandered through St. Mark's Cemetery for hours looking for this gravestone until we finally found it. So Ava's definitely got some kind of a connection there.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because I've had that happen to myself. We went to Park Lawn Cemetery in Toronto one day, and it was a weird thing because I didn't know about my father's side of the family very much, other than they're travelers, right? We know they're travelers. They've been travelers for hundreds of years in the UK. And and it turns out my grandmother's side too, on my mom's side.
Gosh.
Got lots of travelers in our family. So it was a really interesting thing, because we went to the cemetery, and the weird thing was we were going to the church to pick up Ed's mom's ashes because they'd been interred there, and it was just way too far away. And so we went and we removed them from the church and we brought them home. So we stopped at the cemetery there because I had found out that my great grandparents were buried there. I didn't even know they made it to Canada. They came over in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they were buried there. Well, when we went to the cemetery, we had no idea where they were. So we drove in, and the same thing. We drove in. I don't know if you've ever seen have you been to Park Lawn, Ian, in Toronto?
Yeah.
Massive cemetery.
Oh, it is. It's huge.
Hundreds of acres. We drive in. I stop the car. We park. It's November-ish. It's snow. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. There's lots of deer in there. So I had my cell phone, and I'm like trying to get a picture of her. And as I'm walking. I stop. I get a picture of her. I look. My grandparents' headstone. My great-grandparents' headstone.
No way.
Wow.
Wow, really? That's awesome.
It was like
I know. When Ava stopped like that on the stone,
now
and put the flowers that it was just like so like like she didn't know what she'd done. It was wild, isn't it? It's just incredible.
So weird that they reach out to us to let us know, right? So Ian, what are you going to tell us about? Because I mean, this kind of goes.
Oh my gosh.
He's got so much. I know you have.
I've been doing this for 8 years now. I'm not even sure what direction down the rabbit hole you want me to go.
All right, I got a question for you. What motivates you to explore the paranormal? Like, what keeps you going? What is it?
There's when you talk about the paranormal and paranormal investigators and paranormal researchers, you can take 10 different people and ask them that same question. What motivates you? What are you looking for? And you're going to get 10 different answers, most likely. Because everybody's got our own reasons why we do this. And from these other people, it appears that so many are looking for the answers of what's waiting for us after we die, what's on the other side. And everybody's trying to accumulate this information of, what are we to expect? Well, that's not me. I want to communicate.
Right.
I think it's so cool to go to somewhere like Fort George or anywhere like that, and make communication with a soldier from the War of 1812. I want to know the stories. That's what motivates me. Is I want to know the stories and maybe why are they still here and haven't moved on.
If there is an on to move to, right? Because I really believe there isn't an on. I believe that we just return to become a part of the energy that is here. And so that's why we're able, I've talked about that before, that's why we're able to tap into this, right? It's not like they're coming back and forth from some magical place, right? I mean, we are energy, we are natural, we're energy. And so I think that that's kind of how the universe works, right? It keeps it, it's like a big giant battery that just keeps going.
What motivates me is I've always wanted to help people. And I found that my gift has been able to help people, whether that's people moving on, being able to answer certain questions for people, people that are sort of hanging on to something. I'm able to pick up on that and say, it's okay, you can let go of that now. You don't have to hold on to that anymore. It's all about helping people.
Look at you, Rachel. She's so helpy. I'm like the reluctant helper. I mean, I do readings for people and I do a lot of this, but it's only if the spirit is nudging me. It's not like I really want to do readings for people just for the sake of doing readings. And we've talked about this before, Rachel, because it's like, for me, it's exhausting. And, it's just not me. I mean, I am who I am and, I am the receptacle of information, but unless the spirit is nudging me. And if people contact me looking for answers, if the other side's not coming through for me, like they're whoever they're looking for, I'm honestly, I'm not really wanting to do a reading or do a sit down with them, because I'm not going to be able to give them any real information. Right.
I don't want to be a show pony. You know, that's where I'm at.
Oh, and I don't like feeling that way. Like I think people who do readings for a living, it's great if that's what you do. For me, I feel it like it is a bit of a dog and pony show, and that people, the expectations of people when they sit down in front of you are so great that, you know, it's like, and sometimes you just can't deliver that information. And so for me, I don't use any divination tools really. I have some, but if I was to do, I would just sit down with somebody. I can still do that reading, but that's only if that information and that energy connection is there. If it's not, I just feel like I would be not giving the person a truthful, you know, version of what they need to hear. So I'm very reluctant. Like I say, I'm the reluctant reader. Yeah. You know,
I mean, like I said, I had a paranormal investigation once where I was brand new to the paranormal team. One of the first investigations out with this team. And I went, and I guess the woman that was there at the house wanted me to basically pick up on the fact that, I mean, her mom had passed away. And her mom used to have it there, sit in a certain chair that, you know, she died in, actually. And I guess the team was hoping or really wanted me to pick up on that particular entity, spirit, you know, because the mom, the daughter was grieving, you know, because she'd lost her mom. I wasn't going to play into that. I didn't feel comfortable saying, oh, your mom's here, you know, yes, she's with us. Oh, looky, you know, here's the flashing lights, you know, your mom's here. It didn't feel right for me to do that, you know, and that's what I meant by showboating or being a pony. I'm not here to, but you know, I can help in other ways, you know, saying, look, you know, it's a good, if I'm not picking up your mom, to me, that's a good thing. She's moved on, you know, she's at peace, she's happy, you know, it's okay, you know. I think that's a better answer, but people don't always want to hear that, you know.
They don't always want to hear the truth either. So
it's like, no, it's my mom, I know it is, and blah 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 blah. It's okay. You know, I'm not going to get into an argument with anybody about.
Yeah, and I've done big paranormal events and done readings at big paranormal events, and that, you know, where there's hundreds of paranormal, like hundreds of mediums, and you know, people coming around, and it really is a dog and pony show at that point. You know, it's like you feel like it's like, oh, pick me. You know, I mean, I don't do that, but it's just, it's the weirdest feeling for me, right? It's not, I don't feel that for me, it's a truthful experience. Like, I do get messages, I'm not going to lie, it happens. But at the end of the day, I think when we do this in general, like just these kinds of things, I go into it with zero expectation. I don't know if you guys do, but I honestly, I don't go somewhere just to find like a spirit or a story or.
No, I just let things come to me and pick it up. Like, for example, at that investigation, I picked up on a male spirit that was the previous owner of the house. Like, I picked up all these fantastic details. You know, I did really well. I came up with everything, you know, the year that they died, this, that, the name of the person, you name it, but that wasn't good enough because it didn't bring up the, you know, the owner's mom who passed.
And that, again, that's, you know, but that's the nature of what it is. And as I tell people, my explanation for it is this. You and I, Rachel, could be, and Ian, we could all three of us be on an investigation together. Ian's got his equipment out. I'm picking up on something, but you're not picking up on it, Rachel.
Exactly.
So does that mean it doesn't exist?
No.
It means that all of us in the room, no matter who you are, we're vibrating at our own frequency. And I feel like in order for spirit to find you, that frequency has to be conducive. Like it has to be able to come together. It's almost like a magnet, you know, so you put two magnets together, like they push each other, repel each other apart, right? So, but it's just like picking up like a magnet when you go to pick up metal. It brings that energy together and it connects. And I feel like that in terms of how I channel things. And I think that, you know,
my biggest fear was with, I know we've all got to start somewhere, but amateur mediums or psychics or people that claim, you know, that they know or do more than they actually can. You know, I've been on investigations with people that, you know, can cause more harm than good.
Especially if a paranormal investigation where you do have, you know, somebody from the house. Generally, I won't do it that way. I want them out.
Oh, same here. Same here.
I want them home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want them all out of the house and animals.
Agreed.
I don't want any cats. I don't want any dogs. I don't want anything else there that's going to be interrupting the energy. And so that is about the only way that I will do it. I will not do an investigation if somebody is home and then with them constantly hovering around going.
Because they worry. Yeah. I mean, for example, so what happened was I wasn't running the investigation. I was just a new member of the paranormal team. But they invited the psychic to join us. I use that word very loosely. And she came in and she was like, oh, you know, I'm sensing this little girl. I'm seeing a little girl. And she was supposed to be coming along as just a member of the team to get a feel for the paranormal investigation. So she wasn't like really meant to be there in that role. But hey, whatever, you do you.
I know.
And this is the thing. I think this is just a major concern I have with some of the paranormal groups, and I'm sure you've experienced it as well, Ian, where, you know, people are just, you know, not being professional about what they're doing, and taking into consideration of the fact that you're in somebody else's home, you know, going around their things, you know, talking about, you know.
Yeah, you have to be
yeah. Right? I mean, these people are sincerely concerned. If they're concerned enough to call a paranormal team, there's a reason for it. You know, respect that is what I think.
You know, there's so many people that watch these crazy paranormal shows on TV, which are just rubbish, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
and they're basing their own work on, well, I'll say work. Based on these TV shows, because that's where they're getting their experience from. Is from these shows.
So with it's awful. So with this psychic, this woman, I can't remember her name, but she was like, oh yeah, I'm picking up a little girl. And she said this in front of the owner. So the owner was still mulling about in the kitchen. All the other lights had been turned off, but the kitchen light was still on. And he heard this and he was like, little girl, and he didn't know, like, and I wasn't picking this up. I wasn't picking up a little girl at all. But she apparently was, and she told him that. So I guess, you know, it set off this ripple of upset. He was like, oh no, how awful that this poor little girl is, like, you know, haunting my house. I feel so terrible about that. And then I guess, you know, he looked further into it, and I guess he came back with, you know, oh, apparently my daughter had a miscarriage and she thought maybe that was the little girl that they were talking about, and that distressed everybody in the, you know, it distressed the owner of the house, it distressed the daughter who had this miscarriage, and it was like, no, this has to stop. You can't have somebody, you know, you can't have people inexperienced just going in there telling, you know, this X, Y, and Z, you know, without like checking it out, you know.
And that's the thing, right, is controlling the environment as well, you know, like, so when you have people like that, and I mean, there's always going to be people like that because they feel like they want to grab that spotlight. I think it's so important as a team to be able to set those parameters before you begin the investigation. So it's like, if you are picking up on something, before you start to talk about it, we're going to go through, we're going to complete the investigation, we're going to talk about it after the fact, and then we're going to discuss what information we're going to sort of disseminate to the person who is in this location. Because at the end of the day, if it is something like that, and it's not connected to the person, and that person has never picked up on it, is there a reason to tell them?
No, it caused a ripple effect where the owner was upset. it left this sort of negative energy,
And now you're having to deal with that, like trying to pick up the slack on that kind of conversation, because it really is unnerving. I mean, some of the things that happen during investigations are unnerving enough for people. But when you start to make it very personal for someone, that comes, and it may not even be connected to them. So the best thing is to do your research, right? Do your research, get together, compile that information, and then decide what you're going to tell that person after the fact. Going through, I mean, I have gone through buildings before where people have invited me in, and not homes. These are like commercial buildings, different things. And they want to know in the moment. So yes, I will tell you in the moment what's happening. But at the end of the day, if it is somebody who's having an issue in their home or, somewhere where they live, you have to be so careful about how you're presenting that information, right? And you also have to be careful when you're using equipment.
Thank you for watching The Ghost Show Online. Join your hosts again next week as they discuss more tales of the supernatural, the paranormal, and all things spectacular. See you soon.